Welcome, everybody, and thank you for attending the ECC's and CISARC Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification presentation. My name is Ryan Kors with ECC. I'm the IT manager here, and with me today, I've got Bernard Bach and Brock Hudson from CISARC. It's a company that we've been working with in the last year to achieve our CMC certification, and we asked them to run a presentation for some of our subcontractors. One thing to note, please fill out the survey for Elizabeth Webb. That way she has your email address and can forward you on the presentation as needed. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Bernard for the presentation or to kick off the presentation. And thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. And I'm glad that we are here and give you a little bit of an overview of what has happened this year. When it comes to the CMMC, and as the CMMC has finally been announced and being rolled out, it also has rolled out something in the interim, and we will talk about this. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And then the next one. And the next one. We have so many introductory slides here. So housekeeping, yes, we're recording to it, the whole webinar. We want to make sure that we catch everything, and if there are questions afterwards, we can answer them. Comments and questions are welcome. Please look at the Q&A, see that we put them in there. So we will collect them mostly and then answer them afterwards to keep the flow going, or else we are sitting way too long in here, because Brock and I are way too enthusiastic about this whole topic and we can talk way too long about it. So just type it in there, and we will see that we answer them in the order we get them, or if we can group them together and find together. So a little bit about CISARC's background. We are a managed service provider, managed security service provider for many years here in the DC area. We have 3-4 years ago, when the DFARS became a rule that had to be implemented by December 31st, 2017, the first contact partners and contacts for our partners and clients were our DoD contractors. So at that point in time, they came to us and we had to figure out what to do. And we got up to speed quite quickly. We have an experienced security staff in our team. And since then, we have helped countless companies, not countless, maybe 70, 80 companies to become compliant. We have done over 60 assessments and helped them with self-assessments to become compliant. And then we found solutions for pretty much everything. And we have learned that there are no silver bullets. I think, yes, copies might get out. If we get the email addresses, then this will be handled via the presentation. Okay, sorry, gotten distracted from the email with the questions. That's exactly why I wanted them in the afterwards, but I think that was an important questions right now. So CISARC's background is that we've learned, one of the things that we learned is that there are no silver bullets, and it really depends on what your company is. And so there's not one tool to sell or to implement for everybody. We will go through today, why are we here, what is actually going on. Then Brock will give an overview of the interim rule. We will dive a little bit deeper into CMMC, what is CUI, and what else are those secrets and acronyms that everybody is talking about. We will explain shortly the levels 1 to 5. What are the steps, how to get there, and how to get ready? What are cost considerations that you might want to review and think about? And then we will have some additional resources available at the end. The Q&A, we might bring a little bit further. Most people have already heard a lot of the CMMC, so we don't want to go into too many details, but the slides will be very detailed. So once you get the slides, you can read up a little bit and also see where's further reading in the future. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So why are we here? Because the defense industrial base in the USA is under attack for many years. For many years, our adversaries were have probed us, have successfully infiltrated government organizations, contractors, full projects, and very often they got it in through the weakest links in the chains. So as a fractional CISO service that we provide for a lot of DIP companies, we see attacks literally on a daily basis, and you can see the results pretty clearly there between what a Humvee and a Dongfeng looks like. There's not much difference. So where did all this information come from? Surely not just from pictures. So, and being aware that the underbelly of the DIP has many weak points, there is a lot of attack space there. There's almost 300,000 companies were working for the DoD as a contractor in many forms. The DoD learned that they had to get better security of their data from all contractors, and contractors had to play their piece at it. So the DFAS rules 252, 204, 7012, I will always call it now a 7012 from now on, was born and demanded better cybersecurity. But that was voluntarily, and it was based on self-assessment, and there were no audits in there. So I have to say less than 10% actually did it. I'm not sure if even 10% hit the first mark on December 31st, 2017. So the process didn't work. The loss is still too high. Next slide, please. So in 2019, end of 2018, in 2019, then the DoD Acquisition Bureau came up with a new solution, and it's called the CMMC. It stands for Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and it will have multiple levels on where you get from Cybersecurity Hygiene Basic to Advanced and Progressive. The intent is really that the CMMC is the basis for the acquisition, for all acquisition processes in the DoD. So in the future, everybody needs to have a certification, which will be good for 3 years at the point of a contract award. And this certification will be achieved by going through an audit, a third-party audit that will go in deep and collect evidence and see that you actually have implemented the security rules that are there. So, as I mentioned before, it was the response to that the voluntary path didn't work. It was given out, people could have done it, but now auditors are coming, and it has to be verified that the security is in place. Please go on. So the final framework was published in January 2020. Since then, the CMMC AB has started working, the accreditation body, and created the infrastructure for the CMMC. It started with the first contracts to simply publishing companies that they can publish the new guidelines. They have created the training guidelines, which is one of the big areas, creating the training materials. And then they have started beginning of this year, and not beginning of this year, it actually in the middle of this year. I think, Brock, correct me, I think we started our training in September, early September.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
So the first assessors and practitioners were trained. Brock and I are trained as practitioners. There's a fine differences there, but the first assessors are still, we're all still waiting for our certification of this process. We passed the training. We're waiting for it to be certified. This is the first step. So the baseline and infrastructure has been created. Now, the DoD has created the Pathfinder program that will test and specify the programs and issues that are there and make the fine tuning. So for FY21, 15 contracts were chosen. 15 contracts that will need around 1,100 companies to be audited. Then in 2022, it will be around 50 contracts. The 2023, we are talking about half of all new contracts will ask for the certification. And then after that, pretty much every new contract will be required, so that in latest in 7 years, I think everybody is certified, because then all old contracts have been expired and had to be rebid. And went through a new award system. So to say it clearly, it doesn't go after the old contracts. Yeah. So now we know it will be rolled out over the next 7 years, and yeah, there is a gap. So next slide.
Yep.
Slide and Brock.
So this is me. So minding that gap. So if you look at the dates and the percentages of contracts affected, you're going to obviously know that between today and full rollout that there's a gap of rule sets and you know, all of that. To address this, the September 9th interim ruling was released. What this is basically to increase security until CMMC has reached its full rollout over the next 7 years. It is also where they drafted the SPRS, which you may have heard kicked out there or read about it online. That is the Supplier Performance Risk Score. The SPRS is a scoring system that basically holds, you know, you do a self-assessment like we did in the past against the NIST 171 controls, and you develop your risk score, which you then have to report to the, you know, SPRS website. So what they've done is they've said, hey, CMMC is coming. We don't want you to, you know, we don't want you to snooze on this. So here's the interim ruling. We're going to hold you accountable in the next few years while CMMC continues along its way. The key takeaways for the interim rule is it takes effect on December 1st. All contractors are going to be subject to the DFARS 252-204-7012 clause based on handling CUI. Contractors that handle CUI will now have to have a completed NIST 800-171 self-assessment based on the new scoring methodology. And they will need to post their score, their SPRS is what you'll see that abbreviated as, before the contract will be awarded. The self-assessment to be complete also must include 2 documents, your SSP, your system security plan, as well as a plan of action and milestones, also known as a POAM, describing your current state of your network, any gaps that are in your network, and your plan to achieve 100% compliance with those gaps, according to the NIST 800-171. Prime contractors on contracts, you have to flow this down to your subcontractors. So this means that you are responsible for any subcontractors that you are using to fulfill your contract. You'll have to do your due diligence to ensure that they are supplying you their SPRS risk score, as well as they are going through the process to do their self-assessment and have their POAM and SSP. The other key takeaway with this is that the DCMA will conduct random audits to make sure that all companies have completed their self-assessment, they've scored themselves accurately as well, and that they are working towards the completion of their plan of action and milestone. So what's this mean for you guys as an organization? The first thing is get an assessment immediately. If you've had an assessment within the last 2-3 years, you probably need to update it because there's been changes within your IT infrastructure. And you also need to redo your assessment so you can update it to the new scoring mechanism. It needs to happen quickly because remember, December 1st is the starting date for this, where all contractors are going to be required to be compliant with 252-204-7012 clause. This also means that in the long term, you should also be planning towards a CMMC Level 3 certification to handle CUI. If you complete your, if you complete all the requirements in your interim ruling and you get a great score, you work towards your SPRS score and you get a good ruling on that, that's going to make you that much better when it comes time for the CMMC Level 3, because the two actually share, the same NIST 171 controls. So by fulfilling one, you're going to do better, completing the other. The other thing to remember is also that CMMC's not going anywhere. DFARS 252-204-7012 isn't going away anywhere. And CMMC is really an extension of the DFARS program with this interim ruling, basically building a bridge between the two in the meantime. And going over to the maturity, the ultimate goal for CMMC auditors. So again, we already talked, it's going to be a stepping stone for CMMC maturity. The maturity requirements, and you'll hear us use that term a lot, maturity, for CMMC level 3 is first, you need to establish a policy. So implementing and saying that you're doing all of the controls within NIST 800-171 is great, but you also have to write these all down, put policies and procedures into place. So you really need to have the paperwork behind it that shows that you have a mature cybersecurity infrastructure within your organization. The next thing is with your procedures, you need to document everything that you're doing in your IT infrastructure and your business, to be healthy and have a good cyber hygiene. You also need to establish, maintain, and plan for all of your domains, right? So your SSP needs to be updated yearly, especially when large changes happen to your infrastructure. That you need to continue on grooming and keeping your documentation procedures and SSP up to date from there on as well. Some items that the auditors are going to look for. So they're going to be looking for each document or other artifacts show that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So evidence of screenshots of the controls, obviously, like a traditional audit we're all used to, but they're going to also look for things like procedures that have been adopted by teams. So they're going to look for sign off from department managers saying that this policy was approved, and that it was approved not a week before the audit, but some time longer ago, indicating that it's been ingrained into your your IT's methodology within the organization. They're also going to be scrutinizing project plan to record your activities, your due dates, and organizational resources. That's your POAM. They're going to scrutinize your POAM and verify that you have due dates assigned to everything. There's not one control out there that's unassigned, and that's also not being tracked to a completion date. And so all of that together, if you have all of that, if you have your POAM with your completion date milestones, if you have evidence that these security controls are implemented, and then you have evidence that you have your policies and procedures that explain what you're doing for cyber hygiene, you're going to be in good shape for a CMMC auditor. And Bernard, I think I'm turning this back over to you.
Yep. So I will now go a little bit more into details what the CMMC is, and if you are actually, what is necessary for you, what will you need to fulfill? Because one of the problems with the DFAR 7012 rule was it was one fits all. Everybody who had it, if you had it in a contract and the prime had it in a contract, you had to make sure it flowed down to everybody down there. So that was also regarded as pretty much a stretch and maybe too harsh of a demand. But I will go into that one. That's why the maturity level system was invented, and I will go into that one pretty much on the next slide. But I also wanted to go back to the first to that. Yes, thank you. Want to at first say. They were debating it in the beginning too, if like security should be like a pillar, like cost, performance, and schedule, and that you can weigh against each other. But the decision was made that everybody needs to have some kind of security foundation before a contract is actually being awarded. So now we're going into the next slide. Thank you. And now we have 5 levels in there, and you see in the middle there's a difference in there. There's a lot to unpack in this relatively simple graphic. So at first you see level number 1, and you see that this is built for FCI. FCI is Federal Contract Information, and I will go into those terms later that you see this. So a big contract normally will have CUI involved. That's on level 3. That's where you need to be. And NIST 171, those rules are very, very close to this level 3. But there will be users and there will be companies who just have a level 1 below it. And that can be under the same contract. That will be one of the big differences between DFAR 7012 and DFAR 7021, which is handling the CMMC. So let's talk about it, why there is actually a left side and a right side. Starting with the left side. Basic cyber hygiene means really those technical controls that everybody should have in place. A firewall, antivirus, should make that his Microsoft programs are patched, that all little programs are patched, that there's at least some spam protection in there, that you have thought about security and that you're doing it. So nothing that you don't do yet. It's like having a firewall is really something you should have right now anyway. Yes, sometimes, oh, my router has enough security. No, it doesn't. You need to have somewhat more, but it's not outrageous. Those are 17 controls, and we will talk a little bit that later. The level 2 will be not in contracts. So when I'm talking about this in RFIs, there will be a request for, oh, this contract is for level 1, for level 3, or level 5. We won't necessarily see level 2 and level 4 because those are stepping stones to the next step. So to make sure that those 17 controls on level 1 is not a big shock to the system to go to the 130 controls in level 3. Level 2 is the step there. You can't a level 2 company wouldn't be able to handle CUI safely. So it's just a stepping stone, and there wouldn't be a real requirement for a contract. So that's the left side. That's the technical controls that you have in place. On the right side, you see performed, documented, managed, reviewed, and optimizing. That is all on the policy level. And I think one of the best explanations for policy I've found is policies are the technical controls for human beings. You know? On a level, on the first basic level, if you're just performing simple services that don't have any secrets anyway, CUI is not secret, but they don't have sensitive information in there, then you will be on a level 1 and they're fine that you're doing the right things. But once you have CUI in your system, you need to make sure that you have a policy, that you have people trained, that you have standard operating procedures, and that you manage against it at level 3. And I will really almost ignore level 4 and 5. Those will be 50 companies out of those 300,000 who will go into those levels. This is, I don't know why they don't make those directly secret or top secret, but those must be the unclassified back offices for those highly classified organizations. So we don't worry about them. So performed, you do the right things. To managed, it's the right way. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So what is CUI? I just want to make sure that everybody understands where this is. This is relatively new, and because of that, a lot of government organizations have trouble with it itself. It was only this year that in March 6th that the DoD really put guidelines out there that everybody has to do it. And that was a big deal. My wife works for the Navy, and they were very lamenting it on the inside as well. But it finally came. It's controlled unclassified information. It's very easy. It's everything that information that the government creates or processes, that an entity or a contractor creates or processes on behalf of the government, that a law, regulation, or government policies requires and permits to handle safeguarding. So what this means is if the government gives you sensitive information, like for instance PII or PHI, some health information, then of course you need to protect it more than or in the same level like you would protect your own PHI and PII. So it is everything that you get from the government that needs special protection. And that is defined in 20 categories, and I will not bore you with all those 20 categories. I have like 5 extra slides for that. But in general, it's what's most interesting for you guys is critical infrastructure and technical information. So very important, CUI does not include classified information. That's a whole nother ballgame. So let's go to the next slide and actually talk about what FCI is. FCI is federal contract information that is not intended for public release, but it's provided or generated by the government and by the government, generated for the government under a contract to deliver this product. It's not something that necessarily need extra protection. It does not, but not including information provided that's already public information. That's not FCI. If it's the public basic information that has been made public by the government that you got the contract, that's not FCI. But the billing behind it, process payments and so on, that is FCI. So for many companies, that's the only information or protected information that you will touch. And for those, the 2020 FAR Rule 52/204/21 is regulating that has those 15 control rules, or CMMC Level 1, which has 17, but it's just split out. Let's go to the next slide, please. So one of the examples, that's a subgroup. CTI, control technical information, is a subgroup of CUI, one of those 20 controlled categories. That's technical information with military or space that is subject to controls, access, use, reproduction, modification. Essentially, that has been defined at the point of contract that this is protected information. So examples would research engineering data, engineering drawings, associated lists, specifications, standards, process sheets, manuals. You can read the list yourself, technical orders, whole different things. It can combine a lot of elements there. There's prioritization in there. There might also be a need to know defined. It's based on the level of criticality, mission impact, uniqueness. There are tiers in it. Not all CTI is created equal. Let's go to the next one. Next slide. Yes. So I should have made this a little bit bigger. This is now how CUI and DU. This is the. Can you go one more? One slide further. Okay. Let's ignore the slide. I think there was a traditional copy and paste error. Give me 1 second. Yeah, this is an example how it actually should look like, but that's not what I wanted to show. Give me one moment and I will at least explain what I meant there. Give me 1 second. Just have my system to open up. Oh no, this is so where I wanted to go with that is that the DoD actually has started to define, and there's a website. It's called dodcui.mil, where you can get more information about what it is. And one of the important part is that the DoD needs to inform the contractors if there is CUI in the contract vehicle. Yeah, it needs to be informed about it. The program must identify DoD CUI at the port of a contract award. If necessary, provide the guidance for it. So it's very important, read the contracts if CUI is part of it, and also in the future, especially with the DoD, at what level will be required from you guys. The DoD has said in the future that they expect most companies to be in level 1. Let's go to the next slide, please. And I think Brock, you wanted to take over from here. If not, then this is going on here. Okay.
Yep. You can chime in because I think this kind of blends in with what you were just talking about as well. So Bernard had previously shown the diagram. You can see it over here on the right, explaining from bottom to top, increasing in expectations, with the middle arrow indicating FCI, transition to CUI, and fully processing and storing CUI. So covering that, we just wanted to go a little in depth on the 5 different levels and explain what they are. So level 1, this is your very basic cyber hygiene. This is, some of these questions are, do you have a firewall? These are very basic IT and cybersecurity questions. Out of the NIST 171 controls, there are 17 that, to be level 1 compliant, you must comply with. Level 1 handles FCI, as Bernard mentioned. So this is, not necessarily the contract, but the financial information to process and bill government. This is anything that's, as an example, anything that's within FCI, you have to be level 1 to be able to handle, store, transmit FCI. Level 2, as Bernard mentioned, is a transitory level. No one is expected to fall in this category. This is a transition as an organization from being able to handle FCI into being able to handle CUI. This is intermediate cyber hygiene, where there are 55 additional controls from NIST 171 expected to be fulfilled in level 2. There's also a more advanced set of practices that you're expected to implement as an organization to protect your assets better. And it's really a transition into level 3, where compared to level 2 and 1, level 3 expects you to implement all 110 practices from NIST 171 or NIST 800-171. In addition, we discussed the maturity level with level 3. In addition to implementing all 110 controls, you also have to have a policy and procedure defined to handle your cybersecurity program. Level 4, by contrast, this is where we're getting into there's only 50 companies that are going to fall in this category. As an example, think the Lockheed Martins, the Skunk Works, their back offices doing the cool stuff. Level 4, this is where with level 4, you have to have a cybersecurity team. That they're able to adapt what they're doing on a day-to-day basis to look for attacks coming into your cybersecurity network. Just like level 3, though, they have to be compliant on all 110 controls coming from NIST 800-171. And they're also going to be expected to implement 800-171B with 13 additional practices here for level 4. The big difference from transition from level 3 to level 4 is you've now become proactive in looking for threats within your network. That's a big takeaway here. It's more than just being able to have the infrastructure to manage them and identify them. You actually have a cybersecurity team that goes after these in threat hunts. Moving to level 5, this is the highest level, of course. This is also all 110 practices from 800-171 revision 1, plus 5 from 800-171B, and an additional 10 from 800-171B as well. The quick notes on this one is not only are you practicing everything at level 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you're also able to be active and repel advanced persistent threats. So you have not only a SOC, you've got a red team, a blue team internally that are able to, pen test your network, able to identify, hey, there's a weakness in this that potentially we're seeing, an adversarial country exploit. This is really the advanced and improvement. The cybersecurity program is able to self-correct, self-test, and basically self-accredit itself that, we're doing the right things based on our testing. These are our policies and procedures. We need to implement and update them. It's a real mature cybersecurity program at the level 5. So moving on, which level is right for you? So all companies doing business with the DoD, you're going to be expected to achieve a level 1. So those 17 controls. That's, there's going to be around 300,000 suppliers in the DIB supply chain. Bernard had already mentioned that. Every one of those are going to be required to reach a level 1 minimum. Any company, so if you have CUI specified in your contract, you are going to at minimum be required to achieve a level 3 certification. This is going to be the largest segment, as Bernard said. If you do the math, 300,000 suppliers, around 50 of them are going to be level 4 and 5. That leaves 200 and, I'm not doing the math.
Almost 300,000.
It's still almost 300,000. It's one of those things. You subtract it, it's still almost 300,000 that are going to be required for the level 3 certification. The other thing to also remember is that this is for the DoD and acquisition side for DoD. Other agencies and other federal agencies are going to actually implement this as a model in the near future too. So this, although this is affecting the supply chain for DoD and DFARS, this is coming to a government agent or federal agent near you at some point in the future. Some takeaways with this, with the DFARS 7012 regulation. 7012 aims to encourage you as a contractor to take a proactive role in protecting of CDI. Not only are you required to demonstrate compliance within your own business, but in order to strengthen the supply chain, you must take steps to ensure that your subcontractors are as well. That's the flow down clause that we discussed earlier. 7012 requires your contractors and subcontractors, to safeguard covered defense information. You're also required to report it. If there's a leak, a stolen laptop, etc., you do need to report that through the DibNet as well. And facilitate damage assessments and report malicious software. So, it could be a stolen laptop, could be, malware, but you do need to report those. It is also, with this flow down, it's your responsibility of your subcontractors to inform you if their practices deviate in any way from DFARS and NIST 800-171 guidelines. And it's also the responsibility of the prime on the contract to demonstrate an equally secure alternative practice in place before you share CDI with that subcontractor. So covering the CDI a little bit more, this means that, an organization you're working with on a contract is responsible for making sure you're safe, and they're supposed to do that prior to sharing any of the CUI that could come out of this contract with you. Now, on the reverse of that, it means that if you have a deficiency or a leak, you are required to report this, both your deficiency and any leaks, to your prime contractor. Which levels light for you to continued? We had already covered this, guys, but only 5% are going to be, in the level 4 and 5s for high value assets. Again, think your Lockheed Martins, your Northrop Grummons. The DoD acquisition team, they're going to be doing a better job of marking CUI. Up until this point, it's a little lackluster, but in the future, they're going to be marking CUI, identifying which which of your contracts are going to contain CUI. And so that you may not have time to respond. You may not have enough time to respond to it, though. Based on when you receive your RFI and when you get awarded. So again, this is something you don't want to sleep on. Always be aware of this and be vigilant and staying up to date as best as possible with what's going on in the CMMC world. The 7012 compliance requirement, it's gonna be still enforced. The compliance requirements are still going to be enforced by certain programs that are equivalent to CMMC Level 3. So again, we were talking about the interim ruling that's covering the gap for right now. There's also, we're going to have the other FAR rulings that roll out to other federal agencies, within the government. So again, you may not run into CMMC Level 3 today, but 7 years down the road, another agency may have adopted this as well. In the last, many of the big tier 1 and tier 2 primes, they're taking a risk-based approach. So if some of you receive the SPRS score from your prime on your contract, that's part of the flow down. And they're also, again, required to do this themselves, but also they're taking this as a risk to themselves as well. So as you guys are working, over the next few months, you may start to receive more and more of these SPRS risk score calculators from your primes that you're working with. And it's them doing their due diligence but it's also them having an understanding, a better understanding of the NIST and CMMC requirements and how the risk applies to them.
Okay.
Yep. Readiness
Thank you,
assessments.
Yes. Let me take a step back again, and I see a lot of comments about it. What is, again, what is the right step? What is the right level for you guys? Everybody will have to get level 1. And the DoD expect you to level 1 to be not something where you have to invest in additionally to what you already did for your own cybersecurity that to protect you in general ways. So everybody will have to go there. The first auditors for level 1 will most likely be somewhere available end of 2021. There will be not that many. I don't know yet how they will do this, but there will be a lot of demand for it. It will be interesting to see how this works. In the meantime, is the problem, and I think the level 1 is not something that will take too much heartburn to achieve. We mentioned the firewall and passwords. It's like also having username and passwords. It's in some cases that simple. It depends always on an auditor how strict they want to put something in it, but it's not that hard. The problem is now that if you're on a contract with that had the rule 7012 already invoked and not getting invoked, but has it invoked right now, technically it flows down at that point in time. And it is really about talking with your prime and with the contract officers through the prime, what is the appropriate level for you guys to achieve. Technically, here's the way how you get compliant, and it's the part. You need to become compliant for NIST 171. You need to go through an assessment, do yourself an assessment. We are talking about now, and that's an interview with whoever is the IT team and some of the senior management, whoever feels was responsible for the security. We can do a network scan, but it's not that not necessary to become compliant. It's start collecting the evidence. That's all fine for getting to the level later on. But remember, the very first step right now for being compliant to NIST 171 and the Sprs score until you get to the level 1 audit will be that you need to create, do the self-assessment still, create a system security plan. That means you go through the list of those 110 controls in NIST 171, write down, I'm compliant, I'm not compliant, I'm compliant because I have Active Directory and I'm using Microsoft, I'm not compliant to this. So you collect this, you can get a score from that, because there is the new scoring system that says if you don't have usernames and passwords, you lose 10 points of your 110 controls. If you have no multi-factor, no, let's not get into if you don't have multi-factor implemented for your email or for something else, you get again another 5 points subtracted from your system. So, but you still have to go through the process of doing it. Then you have a score, and then you have a plan where you said, I want to be compliant with all of this by, let's say, December 2021 or later. But December 2021, I think, is an acceptable time frame right now to do this. And then you will have to fulfill this, or you work with it. So you are compliant with the DFAR 7012 rule if you have the SSP, if you have a poem, and if you have a score. Just to make that understand, you don't have to have it really completely implemented. That's kind of like a dirty secret, and I shouldn't say that. Yeah, but that's where you need to be at the beginning. That's what you need to have. Can we go to the next slide, please? So that's what we call the readiness assessment. Then to become really compliant, if you really want to become compliant to level 3, you need to work through the poem, you need to finish the poem. You need to document your policies, you need to create the procedures, you need to create a plan of how to stay compliant over a year. You need to have multi-factor authentication enabled. You need to have a training program for your people enabled. You need to have some capabilities of seeing everything that's going on in your network. It's called a SIEM and a SOC, and you have a program oversight on everything. And that can be very different in price, depending on where you are, what you still need, and where you want to go. Yeah. And once you have this, and then it really forks off. Do you want to go into level 1? You might be going there and then prep for a level 1 audit. For those who have access to CUI and need to touch CUI, and it's absolutely important for their business that they have the capabilities, they have to go the next step. Now they have to go to a pre-audit. The pre-audit will help you collect all the evidence, make sure that you have everything ready. Why is the pre-audit so important? Because the CMMC audit will be very much concentrated on the fact that you have not just implement everything right now. So, oh yeah, I've spam protection since yesterday, and I would say, yeah, you fail. Yeah, or I have a new policy about how users are hired, or the background check when we implemented it last week. They say you are not mature, you just put it in. So you need to show that you have everything already over some time. There will be a time in the audit where you get a chance to remediate, but policies will not be able to be remediated. So everything that needs to show proof that it has been adopted, that you have doing it already for some time, needs time to put in there. So that's why we are saying if you need to go to level 3, start now, get going, get everything collected, and make yourself a mature company. Yeah. And then once you have everything, once you have collected the audit materials, you will apply, you will find a third-party auditor, and the third-party auditor will come on site, will check everything out, and then will submit it. The assessor will submit it to the auditing company. The auditing company will submit it to the CMMC AB. They will give it to you according to the recommendation of this 3CPAO, the third-party organization, or not. Then you have the rights to appeal. Appeals are handled by the CMMC AB at the moment as well, and then you could go on from there. So, and if you get the certification, it will be good for 3 years. Let's get on to the next slide. Okay, let's see. Besides, of course, there's a lot of cost involved. See also that it makes a competitive advantage if you are audited, if you have the certification. And Prime, who sees that you already gone through the certification, doesn't have to worry about you. See again which level you need to be, what's normally your work. If you never touch CUI, definitely prepare yourself to be compliant with level 1. Yeah. Changes in meeting compliance. Those are the challenges. Okay, yeah, the challenges is there. So if you think the process is too complicated, there is help, but do not ask for help. Ask the guys at CMC, at ECC if they can help or can show you into the right direction. Do not procrastinate. Starting now, the time is the clock is ticking. Yeah. Companies are not clear on the requirements. The language is not easy to understand. I just went this morning through an assessment, and I saw the glassy eyes for upper management when they heard sometimes of the language, and they were happy that they had their IT admin there who could translate it for them. But it was important for them to see what the risk is and where they go. Evidence collection. It's interesting. There will be 3 elements of evidence will be required. That's one, an attestation of your people, IT people that say, yeah, we're doing this. Then there will be policies or procedures that say, yeah, he is doing this. And here it says, I'm doing this because it says here so. And then there is for certain elements where you have to show screenshots or you have to say how it works. Yeah. IT team shouldn't just not, oh, it's covered. It's double check. double check for everything. So then, yeah, it's focused, and figure out what level you will do. If you don't have any touched any CUI up to now, work for level 1. Get this done. Ace the level 1. Yeah, maybe get going into level 2. It's as much as there won't. Everybody says there won't be contracts for it, but if someone comes in and it's like, here, there's a level 2, a level 1 contract, but I'm at level 2, that shows that you have actually made progress beyond that. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, the site, since we created this slide, stuff has changed in some ways, but yes, the audits the main audit will be in 2022. There will audits start in 2021, absolutely. At the moment, and according to the interim rule, around 10,000 companies will be audited by mid-2022. After that, it will go up exponentially. The 7012 is going to be enforced if that's already in your contract. You need to have the SSP, you need to have the POEM, and you need to have a score. You need to report the score to the DoD. I'm not sure if we really made this clear. The score and the POEM, the score is really there to keep you honest, because there have been companies put into the prosecuted with the False Claims Act when they were not compliant as compliant as they said. Yeah, have something in place that you verify what you do, and think about it. It's not just about CUI data. It's about your livelihood. One of the things of cyber attacks that is not all cyber attacks are there to exfiltrate the information that you have. Some of them is simply to extort you. There's a ransomware. The better your protection is, and so you better you have your controls in place, the least vulnerable you will be for ransomware attacks that just go after your money. And believe me, there is no company too small, because those guys are just doing mass at one point in time. But also the average ransom right now is $110,000, by the way. So we put a couple of additional resources in there. That's the acquisition department has the full CMMC tool in there and the framework. I recommend to go at the CMMC AB website to look at their parts. I hope I didn't misrepresented anything, or else I'm getting into trouble. Someone else, some salesperson or marketing person from a different company said something, oh, Bernard is speaking and he is already certified, and I almost got kicked out of the system because they hadn't given the certification yet. I just passed it. Okay, do we have slides after that?
We do, but I was going to talk about, this is the frequently asked question, which I wanted to take a look at what was in the live event QA. There was the question from Anonymous, will we get a copy of the presentation? The survey for Liz Webb, if you guys fill that out, she will get you a copy of this. The frequently asked questions, this is pretty standard, and I think that there's a lot of good questions in the chat that if we circulate this presentation to everybody, you guys could see this slide for yourselves, but we could focus on some of your more pressing issues that are in the chat right now. Does that sound fair to everybody? What I'm trying to say is this is written down and going to be circulated, whereas the chat,
I think we should go for the chat. And I'm sorry that we talked a little bit longer than we had planned. So let's go through this through the chat right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Bernard, I can read them off, and we can talk.
Sure.
So we already answered the question about circulating the presentation. So I'm going to go to Jim. He asked, we are a contractor performing environmental cleanup activities and have nothing to do with military equipment or designs. Are we still required to go through this compliance?
The question is, who is giving you the contract? If you are, in the end, even as a sub on a military contract, on a DoD contract, you will have to have level 1. So that's the minimum that you need to achieve. If it's just a government contract, by the way, you need to fulfill the FAR 52, which is equivalent to level 1, just with the effect that this is a self-assessment, while DoD level 1 will be an audit. Okay.
Yep. So there's a second one here from an anonymous, but I think this is very close to Jim's question. If we are a subcontractor of ECC but never deal with controlled unclassified information, do we need to be concerned about this?
I think it's the same answer. It's level 1 you need to be concerned about level 1. Again, it should be the same that you already had. At one point in time you had to attest that you're compliant with FAR 52. Yes, you have, but I don't think that you have to be afraid. You have to have it on your radar. You have to see what you have implemented, what it's missing, and getting ready for level 1 audit in the future.
Yep. The next one is a housekeeping item from Anonymous. Will we have access to this webinar at a later time? They'd like to refer back to this. The webinar is being recorded. I believe that was the intention, but Ryan, if you want to correct me on that.
Or Liz, but I believe the intent is if you fill out the survey with your email address and Liz has it, she will send out the presentation to you.
Perfect. Thank you. And sorry, Liz, I don't know why I blanked on your name there. All right, next one, Anonymous. As a WOSB material supplier, we do not work directly with the government, but rather with our general contractor customers. Are we required to meet level 1? Already have multiple protections with our computer system and files.
Okay. I'm not 100% familiar with this. Here's one thing that we haven't talked about. One element that will fall out of all of those controls are commercial off-the-shelf services or commercial off-the-shelf tools. They are supposed to be not part of the certification system. If you fall under that, review the questions. I'm not a lawyer. I will not be able to tell you yes, no, but if you are very close to a commercial off-the-shelf or COTS, you most likely don't fall under those regulations. Yeah. So multiple protections with computer system files. It's double check that you're already in level 1. It won't hurt. It shouldn't be that far away. And I know I'm repeating myself with there. Let's go within. Make sure that you can fit level 1, but if there's complete COTS, then you most likely can even get around that. Okay.
Yep. Brad, this is a housekeeping item. He asked if there was a dial-in number. I think, unfortunately, we came to that one maybe too late. If he has not joined us yet, sorry, Brad.
Yes, and there is not one anyway.
Okay.
I've got, actually, there's some really good ones down here at the bottom. Steve Warren, in the case of environmental laboratories, we already deal with ABS and our DoD ELAC certification. Cybersecurity is covered in these on-site audits. Please advise.
So there is supposed to be a sorry, I can't say that.
Reciprocity.
Yes, exactly that one. I don't know why it just doesn't want to go over my lips today, but it hasn't been defined yet. So it's stand by. This might happen. This might happen that you can say, oh, I've gone through this one. Can this be held in favor of mine current status? It hasn't been made a decision yet, but it is in the planning phase right now.
So I think the takeaway on that, Steve, would be to keep the eyes out there. Yeah, keep the eyes out there on what's ruled for that one. The next one is, I believe they put their name, a question in the name. So there's actually 2 questions here. The first one is, who can perform the assessment?
Yeah, I'm seeing some others. Did you went really far down? I see other slides that we had.
No. It's right after Steve's question. They put so are the slides available for distribution, but under their name they put in another question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
yeah. It shows up as bold, as small text.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's a long question. So assessments will be done by third-party, certified third-party assessors. And third-party certified third parties assessor organizations, C3CPAO. Oh God, I'm stumbling over my lips today, my tongue. It will be third-party organizations. They're still being created. None of those organizations have been accredited yet. Only 72 assessors have been trained up to now. I hope they already got their certification ahead of the practitioners like Brock and me. But last thing that we all were waiting on were background checks. So hope this is happening. And this will be third-party organizations. There are a lot of companies that I know that will go for it. And then you will have to keep your eyes open. At the moment, if you are part of the Pathfinder project, you would have to go directly to the CMMC AB, which, by the way, also is supposed to have a marketplace. So the CMMC AB is supposed to have a marketplace where you can find the right companies. And there will be two major differences. There will be one for assessing companies, and there will be one for companies that are certified to help you. So that will be RPAOs.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
RPAOs.
We have, this looks like this might be a quick answer, but George Keenan, will security programs like Avast or McAfee be acceptable?
Brock, you want to take that? I think it depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
It's not Kaspersky.
It's hard to say at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Are good tools. They're good tools, and they will comply with a lot of elements.
Yeah, they will, and it really depends on which products out of those tools you're using as well. If we're just strictly talking about antivirus and firewall,
and for what level you are.
Yeah.
Avast. We just did an assessment this beginning of this week with Avast, and they were fine for many controls. Yeah, McAfee as well. In general, they're more concerned about having something in there than nothing in many places. So.
Yep. It's one tool. It's one tool. That would be like trying to build a house, you know, with just a hammer. You need a saw and other things to do it.
Yeah.
As far as those specific products, you know, not Kaspersky. I wouldn't want to give you a recommendation on which one to use, but
there are a couple of things like Kaspersky has been kind of banned by the DoD, but so yeah. Certain elements will also be that really they expect you to invest more into American companies. Okay, the next question is ECC aware of the contracts that they will have with these new requirements added in December soon? I have to give this to Ryan, or this has to be deferred to ECC later at a later time.
Yeah, Bernard, and I can throw it back a little bit, but I believe that every RFP that comes out after December 1st is going to have the clause in it, correct?
The SPRS clause, yes. The SPRS clause after December should have that in there, yes. And you will need to have the SPRS score on their website registered by the time of award.
Yep. So, and guys, remember the SPRS is part of the interim ruling. It's that gap to cover from December 1 until CMC is rolled out in 7 years.
And you need an SSP to have a score. Yeah, just as a reminder that might have been lost in this whole thing because there was so much information. You need to have an SSP to actually have a score that you then can submit. Okay, level 1 required for all DoD contracts. Yes, starting with this phase until everybody is onboarded, essentially in the next in the internet rooms where they were talking about up to 7 years before everybody has to have it. But in general, yes, yeah. Level 1 is required for every contract after when it's required.
Speaking of level 1, I'm going to just roll this in for an anonymous question. Is there an audit required for level 1?
Yes, you still need to have a certification, but it's supposed to be less painful, lot less regulations for it, but there will be an audit in there. I don't want to scare anybody. And it's all pure speculations, really pure speculations right now about pricing. But talking to big auditing companies, a level 3 will be around 30K and we will expect a level 1. I don't know. I don't know, but a lot less. Hopefully, a good deal less under 10K. But that's not our market. We don't know yet exactly how this is going.
Yeah.
To what do companies to have their security management audited and certified ISO 27001 comply with CMMC? I'm pretty sure you're pretty good already with your policies. There's in the Venn diagram ISO 27001 and CMMC will overlap a lot, but not 100%. It's just adjusting to the other language, and keep your eyes open to how much ISO 27001 will be accepted in certain areas. But there's a little bit more work to do, but not much. And most of the time is adjusting the language that you have the word CUI in the policies. Okay, we think we will only need level 1 to comply. Is an audit required? Yes, it is. That's sandbags where we can find the specific requirements to leave a level 1. The easiest one is we had this on website. Go to the acquisition department, DoD acquisition department. Here is index 1. If you go in there, all the rules are on this list, on this website. You will find them there. And I would actually recommend to go to the appendices because they have all the explanations what they're really looking for. Yeah. So a small business mechanical MACC contractor, would we be required to be certified? Level 1, most likely, yes. New bids only on December 1st, not existing that have already. That's correct. Yes. Okay. I hope
we just had one come in. What is the calculation for determining the score to submit in SPRS?
Now you open the can of worms. So let me talk about, because I had to explain it so many times to web developers. You start with a number of 110 points. That's 1 point per control for those 110 controls, 110. But if certain questions have a higher weight. So for instance, if you don't use usernames and passwords, let's say you don't use usernames. No, you use usernames, but you don't have passwords implemented, then this whole score goes down by -5. There are a lot of questions there that are -5, -3, and -1. So as you all are good in math, it will directly show that you can end up with a negative score. If you have nothing implemented, you had a score of -205. Yeah. So your range and your score will be anywhere between +110 or -205, and you will see also directly a 50% completion rate is still negative. So that's how it's going to be calculated. There is some guidance for the new calculation system out there that defines exactly which question is how much worth.
The big takeaway for this, though, guys, is there is one control on there that if you do not have your SPS or SSP, sorry, if you do not have an SSP, you fail all other controls, and it's you can't continue forward. It's a pass or fail question on the SPRS scoring system.
I have 10 minutes past 4.
Yep.
Brock and I are still available for questions, but we also want to give like a time that when it's kind of a follow-up where we can find the level 1 requirements. Yes. Yeah, that's sure. We can. I don't know. This is about lists. We can give you the link to the document, and then Elizabeth, and then. So you have those requirements.
We'll be able to share the PowerPoint as well as some supplemental information on the DFAR interim ruling to all the emails that have signed up on the survey.
All right. I'm just checking for any additional that slid in on there. Is there a point value range for all levels or just a certain level? So So I think that it's getting a little muddled between the CMMC levels and the SPRS score. So the CMMC levels, you have a maturity level 1 through 5, right? And it's pass or fail. They don't allow partials with CMMC. You are level 1, you are level 2, or level 1, level 3, level 4, level 5 certified, right? The SPRS, by contrast, is where we're talking about that point value system, which is a point system out of 110. Remember, that is a gap filler, right? That's a gap filler between this year and when CMC is fully rolled out. That system does not take into account the CMMC levels. That is based around NIST 800-171 revision A controls. It's a little bit confusing because it's bridging the gap between where we are now with the NIST self-assessments and CMMC, but it overlaps in regards to the expectations for you for security. But the score, the 110 score, does not directly impact your CMMC 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5. Are there any considerations for small businesses?
Yes and no. Okay, so one of the first elements, it depends on how it's organized and where you can get it. I've seen it. Okay, each state has, and I don't know about Guam, but has a manufacturer extension program. And you don't need to be a manufacturer to talk to them. But this MEP program is associated with the DoD and NIST. And a lot of those MEP programs, and it depends very much on their qualifications, can help with grants. In Maryland, I know that they give up to $20,000 in help to achieve it. They essentially pay for the assessment and then help you with another $12K for that pays half of your remediation costs. So if you can show this is what it costs, they will reimburse you up to half, up to a full number of $20K. That's Maryland. I know other states do it as well, and I know from other states that don't do it. So the most important part is they talk to the MEP program within your state to get some help there. And in general, for the CMMC, the DoD was very much concerned and very much aware that it's talking about small businesses. And in their mind, a level 1 shouldn't cost you anything that you shouldn't do anyway. So there's not much help there. The other costs are going to be allowable. The level 3 is supposed to be allowable costs for the contract. How much that really helps you in day-to-day life and for contracting is a different story. But I would definitely talk to the MEP program because they are getting money from the DoD for this purpose to improve on the cybersecurity portions.
I'll take the next two, Bernard. So we have anonymous. Which one do we need to hit, CMMC or SPRS, and by which date? Short answer on that is both. SPRS should be an immediate view. With CMMC is going to be the long term over the next 7 years. SPRS, you need to have your assessment, POAM, and SSP going in, December 1 and going in, because as of December 1, new contracts that are going to be awarded are going to be looking for your SPRS score. The next question is the SPRS.
Just one of the other parts I want to say. 7 years is if you are fully in deep in projects right now and won't have any new project until in 7 years. Then you would 5 years. So I wouldn't count on, especially on level 1, I wouldn't count further than 1.5 years in the future.
Yep.
The SPRS score is essentially now. You should have had, that's why they're saying it, you should have had an assessment and an SSP for like 3 years. That's why they put it without any warning in there, essentially within 2 months that everybody gets it. And we are getting calls pretty much every day and we are churning out those scores, every day. It's really a lot of things there. And think about it, it needs to be in those on this website, on the Sprs website. And I think we should get this somewhere else as an additional information where it is.
Yeah.
And then submit it there as soon as possible.
And to answer Anonymous's question, SPRS does not require C3PAO. It's a self-attestation.
Yes. It just makes it now you have to say, this is my score and I will be at 110% by day X. You submit it, you attest to it, and they can come back to you. There's a small chance of an audit. It's a 3% chance of an audit. And when you get chosen, and if you had DCMA, DCMA will be the auditor there. So yes, that's a different part. No three CPAOs. Or
C3PO. Yeah, I keep wanting to call it C3PO, but it's not Star Wars.
Exactly. Is not responsible for it. This is actually DCMA will go through those audits if necessary. Yep.
And so far, I don't see that any additional have come in. Oh, yep, we have one from Toby. Does this apply to professional service contracts such as engineering, design, or QA?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. It depends actually on the contract itself. If the contract says you need to be DFAR 7012, and now with the new additions 1719, 7020, 7021 compliant, then yes. But I can't answer that just like that. It's like engineering design, when depends also what you design in engineering. If it's critical infrastructure, then absolutely yes, then it's CUI, and then we're talking about level 3.
Yep. That's yep, nobody else has slid in under the closing door there, to use an Indiana Jones metaphor.
And Ryan, I would thank you for having us. I hope we were able to help answer some questions. I'm pretty sure we created more questions as well, but we're here there to help. And I'm glad that you gave us this forum.
And as always, we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your already busy day to help educate some of our subcontractors and population people. So with that, I will say goodbye to everybody. If you have any follow-on questions or need any help, please contact Liz Webb. And my last act of the day was throwing Liz under the bus. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.